Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the P-Ball Breakdown live show / podcast / last live show of the year. Joined as always by Jared Weiss. It's a bit of a bittersweet show that we're having here, but thank you all for coming in. We got tons of people streaming in already to the YouTube channel and the Periscope. Jared, I don't know. It kind of feels okay to kind of just be done with the season, doesn't it?
A little bit. I mean, I'm really sad that series is over, although I'm glad that nobody else had to get their lives ruined for another game. I mean, Klay, who knows what that injury is going to be, but it's like every single game somebody was going down and coming back, going down. I'm glad that part at least is over.
Yeah. Now, the other thing I would say is that they didn't really deserve, the Warriors did not deserve to win this game. And yet they were right there and had a chance to do something interesting with it. But with all the turnovers they made in a finals game, when a knockout game, you just can't afford to do it. Now, I need to go check the box score because, let's see, they had 16, which isn't like a ton, but it's probably about 4 more than they should have had, or 5 more at least, because some of them were so dumb. And I tell you, any one of those, and they probably win that game. One thing I just want to mention, that Draymond 3 in the left corner, they only gave him 2. They didn't review it or anything. So I don't know. I imagine like if they had that 1 point when it was done, they were down by 1 with the ball. Like that's interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how we're supposed to reconcile that fact. Like what do they even do?
Yeah. But they, again, so for as good as Draymond was, he was like grabbing so many rebounds and finally they were getting some stops in the fourth quarter, and he was everywhere getting the rebounds. But geez, Louise, he threw an outlet pass away to Quinn Cook that could have been a layup, but he threw it about 10 feet short. And then he had another one where he jumped in the air and had to try to throw a kick out pass to Iguodala, who was cutting back door. I mean, some of those are really. I mean, listen, let's make sure we give the Raptors as much credit as they possibly can. I'm just sort of like scratching my head on the unforced turnovers that the Warriors made, and all to sort of accentuate the fact that the Raptors simply just deserve to be hoisting the trophy right now.
Yeah, and sorry, I had some sort of weird lag thing going on. But yeah, the Draymond pass where he drove down the middle and then tried to kick it out to the right elbow and just threw it out of bounds towards the end there. That was the one that just it was just like, what the hell you?
Yeah, but I want to give Cook some crap on that one too. Because Cook has to understand. In the right spot? Yeah, he can't make that pass to the corner where he was moving because that's where the screen was for him. He needs to kind of move up and give him that angle better. But again, the Raptors were so good at taking away the primary attack of the Warriors that they were deep into their third, fourth, fifth options on their offense. So it's not that surprising that they're going to have the communication errors. I think it was more the turnovers and the defense. The Raptors continually were able to move the ball, and every time the Warriors needed to stop, Ibaka would come up with a huge bucket, an easy bucket, but a big bucket they'd create for him. Same with Siakam. Those two guys hit really key buckets, not necessarily the hardest shots to make, but they just were right there for them, and kept that lead that they had for a while there.
Well, they were hitting a lot of kind of like short 10-footers on the roll, or posting out from the block and trying to kind of jump out towards the middle high part of the paint. They were all kind of awkward shots, and just so many of them went in, and a lot of those kind of similar shots weren't falling for Golden State. And I think those are the two guys that probably deserve the most credit for just the fact that they kept coming through over and over, playing from the block, playing as the roll man. It was just so weird how Toronto kind of won the series playing maybe like 10-year throwback basketball. It was hitting the roll man on the pick and roll, working the elbow from the the block from the weak side. There wasn't a lot of they were running kind of the antidote to what Golden State was running in the series.
Yes. And then we also, I guess let's address the Klay Thompson injury, because that threw the Warriors lineups into a complete disarray as well. So we had Steve Kerr running out a lineup that had like Looney and Cousins and Livingston all together in the same lineup. Probably never had played together all year long. I could probably check that in a minute at NBA Wowie, but it was really a tough thing. And I think this is just goes to show you what happens. You play enough games, and the injury thing is just gonna eventually probably it's gonna catch up to you. I think. I don't know. Maybe the Bulls in their 6-year run never really had to deal with that. I can as far as I can remember. Really, Rodman had some issues in the 5th and 6th titles, but they kept their big three intact. The first three with Horace Grant, Pippen, and Jordan. So it's like. It's but this is 5 years in a row, right? That's the Bulls didn't have to do that. So it's just really unfortunate because now we're worried about Klay Thompson. I would be 90% positive he did something to his ACL, and it's probably not good. Even though he was jumping around, I think that's adrenaline. I think that once it calms down, he's going to realize he's got a really serious knee problem.
I mean, the one good thing is that, as we reminded with KD's injury, usually when it's a complete tear, the person's not in a ton of pain because most of the pain and the tear comes from, if it's a partial tear, the fact that the newly exposed ends of the ligament are rubbing up against each other and causing a ton of pain. So usually if it's a complete tear, the person can kind of just limp it off. So hopefully that means that he doesn't have he only has a partial tear or a really bad sprain or something like that. We'll see.
We have go ahead.
He at least got out of it somewhat unscathed there and didn't come away with another devastating injury. So at least Golden State can have their core back next year and make another run at it.
Yes, the core being, I guess. Well, they have to sign Draymond and Klay, right? Those two guys are free agents.
Which I assume they probably will.
Yeah, I mean, Klay sounds like he will.
Well, go ahead.
Well, we had a good question over in the Periscope. The first one, Wooby30 says, well, Coach, why doesn't Curry shoot threes anymore or take people off the dribble anymore? Well, I mean, if I go to the box score, Curry took how many threes?
They ran the game-winning play for him to take a three.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's get into that because I kind of tweeted it out saying it was very, very head-scratching that they would have they had 9 seconds to go and they throw the Brad Stevens special, which, is a risky play. It's the kind of thing you reserve when you're down like 2 or 3 and there's only like 4 seconds left on the clock.
It's a 4-second play, very specifically. I just tweeted it out. I wrote a story about it. It's called Winner. It's the name of the play.
Okay.
I wrote a feature on it when the Celtics ran it unsuccessfully in the playoffs last year.
Right.
And it's a fascinating play, and it's used throughout the WNBA. It's used in college. It's used in the NBA a little bit. But yeah, the play is timed up perfectly to run it when you have 4 seconds left because when the postman catches it on a lob over the weak side, then you get the screen coming or for the curler coming around. You pass it out to him. He gets the shot off with about 1.5 seconds left. That's why you run it. You run it because you have either the quick pass for the shot with like 2 seconds left, or if that doesn't materialize, the post up guy can take a fadeaway, baseline jumper. And they weren't in that kind of situation. So I was really surprised. But at the other hand, they got him a pretty decent look. Like, it was not a bad look at all.
Right.
But if you're trying to get a decent look, that's what you accomplish.
Yes, but he's going to his right, which is the harder look when you're going that way. Although Curry, I don't know if it matters.
I think for him, he prefers it, though.
Okay, but I still think it's harder. I don't know whether he prefers it or not.
It is harder.
But there, I had this vision. I'm like, okay, they got 9 seconds. They can easily attack on the top and generate like a really good shot to win. They're only down by 1 in the lane or something like that, or draw a foul. Because remember, they can't foul. Or put them on the line to lose the game. So it was really, it's still a head scratching thing to me that they would have done it that way with that much time. I guess when you get to that level and you've won so much, then it's almost like, because you saw Steve Kerr kind of put his hand on Curry's back, knowing that was it, that was the game, even though there was another possession after that. And you just kind of said, you know what, like, let's just do the home run, and you know what, we'll give you a shot at being an all-time amazing shot, and if it doesn't go in, but it's not, it wasn't the right decision, I don't think, especially when you're down, it's a knockout game for them. But again, I think at this point, with Klay going down, with KD going down, everybody that's so banged up, it just probably felt like, you know what, let's just see, this is going to be it. Let's just throw all the marbles on the table and take all the percentages out of the equation.
Well, the big thing I don't understand is that I know that Steph Curry's three-pointer, especially off the catch, is probably the best single shot that they have available to them. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's the easiest and most likely shot that they have in their entire arsenal there. And they're going to that only down 1. And I just feel like attacking the rim, finding a way to attack the rim is got to be the better look, just because of the chance of drawing a foul.
Right.
Which I feel like in that moment probably would have gotten called if they got a decent amount of contact based on the way the game had been getting called down the stretch. But I'm sure that at least one of Steve's assistants was kind of giving an opinion on, do we think we would get a call if we drove the lane? So I'm sure that factored into it. I mean, Steve Kerr is very experienced in this area, so I'm sure they had a pretty well-reasoned discussion on how they best wanted to go about it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. So let's talk a little bit more about the Raptors because, again, now they're champions. And I got a really cool video coming up. I have to do it, but I got a cool idea about tracing how they put this team together. So I'm going to do that in the next couple days. But, Kawhi Leonard, obviously, he's going to get the MVP. I kind of turned it off. I'm assuming he's getting the MVP right now.
Let's see. Right now, Doris Burke is talking to Fred VanVleet, who is my MVP in the deepest of my heart. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously going to be Kawhi. Yeah. I mean, I know. Our buddy Sam Amick tweeted out his ballot for Kawhi right after last game because they had already done the MVP voting before the game flipped on its head with a couple minutes left. So obviously Kawhi helping them lead the charge, and Kawhi literally being the one to close it out there with a 3-point play that they didn't give him, which was super confusing at the end, but whatever that was.
I think it was late, right? I feel like he released it late.
That must have been it. Okay.
But then the clock didn't expire. It was weird. The refereeing again. What did you think about? Well, okay, I guess we'll go to the referee for a second. Again, there was some head scratching calls, but thankfully, right, it wasn't tipping the scales too far in either direction. It felt like.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to complain about in this one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I wrote down a bunch, but it wasn't anything that really was crazy. Now, Lowry, I think, is the key here. When they get good play out of him, they're like, I can't consider them like unbeatable because the Warriors had the game. I think if they had cleaned up a couple turnovers and whatever, they would have won it. But and that was despite not having Klay for a lot of the game. But when Lowry plays like that, 9 for 16, 4 for 7 from 3, and was absolutely just detonated in the first half because I think that was the other thing. He was sort of was a AWOL in the second half, right? He had 22 in the first half.
Yeah.
So he had 4 points in the second, right? And was really kind of not around. He did have 10 assists, but overall, those numbers are very important for them. And he just controlled the possessions really well. Was able to generate shots for other people too. And when they get that kind of play, then they're really, really hard to beat.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to drop a couple things that are happening right now. Kawhi Leonard won MVP, obviously. He said, Kawhi, what about your future? This is a quote that someone from Barstool tweeted out, so I don't know 100% if it's true, but I think it's true. Kawhi, what about your future? Answer, that's definitely ahead of me, no question about it.
Right. He's very, very literal with his answers. We have a few super chats before sorry, and I apologize. I didn't even see him. They came in quickly in the beginning. Alexander Varga, thank you so much. And he says, thank you, Dub Nation. Congrats, Raptors. It's we want to make sure we're as gracious as possible to the Raptors because this is a really exciting story to be able to beat the Warriors in Canada, the whole thing. The Shiny Haxorus said, Klay had 30 in 2 quarters. Tell me they don't win with him. And again, thank you for that one. And then Scruler, Kyle Lowry has a chip. How do you reconcile that? And that's another great question because Lowry had been on that scrap heap, and that had been the guy who we'd all just blame for all their problems, along with the other DeRozan. But it's probably safe to say that the Warriors win if Klay doesn't go down, right?
Probably, I think so. Yeah. The game, not the series. The game,
right? The game.
Obviously, it would be Game 7 wide open, but I think so.
Oh, okay. The 1 point they took away from Draymond's 3 gets balanced out by the Draymond offensive interference they didn't call. So good call by Brody on that one. That was, and by the way, egregiously bad call. Like it was so clear that it was over the rim. And, I don't know. I think the referees sometimes get really caught up in watching what the bodies are doing, and it's hard to get their eyes up quickly enough. And it was a interesting thing where he almost pulled it away and then did it. So that was another interesting motion out of that. But so
I thought he had pulled away. That was a surprising part. It was seeing the replay. It turns out he hadn't.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't close. I think half the ball was still in the cylinder, right?
Yeah. Oh, it was definitely over. No question.
Yeah. Now, how about this? Look, Steve Kerr almost wins the game running 2-3 zone. I mean, that really kind of stymied them. And that was
the year of the zone, baby.
By the way, there's no question that teams should run zone more. I think even if it's for once, just to kind of screw around with the timing and then go back, they should be running a 2-2-1, very passive press to take 6 seconds off the shot clock before they get across half court. I really don't understand why you can't do that, even that full court press, like just 10 times a game. And that would screw around with 10 of those possessions. Maybe they shoot like 20% on those, and then you can win the game by 6 points. It's crazy to me they don't do it.
I thought we talked about this during the first round when we were talking about, I think we were talking about Milwaukee, how Giannis was able to just burst down the middle with ease. And we were just talking about how you should have just somebody planted on the nail basically to intercept whoever's trying to drive down the middle and just kind of mix it up, in the third quarter a couple times, early fourth quarter, stuff like that, just to keep them on their toes, especially when you have a second unit out there with a star where they're not, they don't have the offensive chemistry necessarily, and they're just not as good at improvising against a different defensive scheme. But it's like, why not just do it for 3 possessions or do, 2 on, 1 off, and then 3 on, something like that, just to throw them off so they don't smell a pattern, and just do it for a few possessions. And
what you're describing is a little bit like Dean Smith's point zone, which is basically 4 guys playing zone around the center who just plays along the line of deployment. So wherever the ball is, he's on that line between the ball and the basket. And you can do that in the NBA as long as you're out of the lane. Or you have 3 seconds to get out of the lane, and that way. But it's really cool because the other 4 guys kind of revolve around. So there might be times, basically on how the ball skips, where a guy in the right low block ends up going baseline all the way around to the left corner if he has to on the rotation. I ran it a little bit when I had a really big center who I didn't want to come out, and it really, really works. And I think that the Mavericks did a version of that back in 2011 when they beat the Heat. And again, it is mind-boggling with the way coaches are going, the way all the knowledge that we have, that we don't see that enough. We don't see it more. I think the most we saw was maybe the Heat doing the regular 2-3 zone, right?
Yeah. All right, you know what? We're the B-ball breakdown pod here, so we're supposed to do X and O analysis, but I feel like in this moment we should focus on the big picture at hand here. Okay. Looking at, we just had a remarkable finals win in which the Raptors won it. Which, by the way, did I say during the second round I thought the Raptors were going to be the big threat to win the title? I definitely did not have them winning the title, but I think I had them as the team I expected to be the big threat. So
okay. Well, just
in the back.
Oh, no, I'm patting my back harder because in January I did a video that said why the Raptors get to the finals. I didn't say they're going to win it, but I said they get to the finals. And by the way, I forgot
them training for Marcus Gasol as one of your.
I did. I knew that was going to happen. And then you know what? Yeah, because I think it was before that. And then by the way, I put it all on Lowry. Like when Lowry plays like he did tonight, that's the X factor they needed. Although Valanciunas. He was big with them in the playoffs the year before, so he could do some things, but I guess Gasol does unlock more of their stuff, and they certainly fell in love with that high post split with Gasol on the elbow, which they didn't do as much of Valanciunas. But anyway, but yeah, so we can both pat ourselves in the back a little bit there on that one. But again, it just didn't seem clear to me that they'd win in 6 by any stretch when the series started.
Okay, well. Where I wanted to go with that was I thought we'd talk about some of the great achievements of the Toronto team. And because we let out this podcast just kind of diving into what did the Warriors do at the end there. It's like, let's recognize the greatness of what Toronto's accomplished. And let's start with Kyle Lowry, because Kyle Lowry, we talked in the second round or first round, I forget when, about whether or not Lowry needed to be replaced by Fred VanVleet because he was playing so poorly. Then there was a time where we talked about whether Fred VanVleet needed to be replaced by I almost said Delon Wright. Why am I blanking on the other guy in the rotation right now?
You mean my mind.
Powell? Wow, Norm Powell. Oh my God. And so I almost said Terrence Ross too. It's been a long day.
Oh wow.
So
Terrence Ross, mama.
Yeah, but so both of those guys were I guess you can't really pick who was the second most important because like everybody across the board and their 6 core guys was huge, but. Those guys were they were the perfect matchup against this Warriors team because they ran the pick and roll so comfortably. Both of them did a really good job of coming over screens and shooting. We saw Fred did that really well tonight. Lowry has just been so good playmaking, just getting past the screen level and being able to hit the short roll guy. And they ran pick and roll better than any team I can think of against the Warriors in the playoffs in the last 5 years. I can't think of any team that's ran pick and roll that consistently down their throats and really force them to choose whether they want to overload, who they want to rotate in. I just feel like Nick Nurse did a perfect read on how to take advantage of Golden State with Durant down and with Cousins not really ready defensively, and they came up with the perfect game plan.
I agree, and we showed that in one of my breakdowns of the finals where they were just eviscerating them with the pick and roll. And again, it's once one guy goes down, the other guy's a little bit hurt, whatever. It just bumps everything off. The rotations get off, and I think that Kerr, just sort of had to throw up his hands. They weren't going to be like running pick and roll defense drills in between games, and they just had to sort of walk through some things and hope that they could get better at it. And even at the end, it's a couple of free throws, it's a turnover, and they win the game. Because remember, at this level, it's just win, baby. Whatever you can do to put it together, it doesn't have to be perfect at all. Just get that win, and they just about stole it anyway. So, but again, the Raptors are just too much. They were again, we don't know as far as what Kawhi is going to do, because there's two trains of thought here. Either he has to stay because he's the savior. He won the game for them, and I think he bought a house. Are we going with that story that he bought a house in Toronto?
I guess so.
Okay, so let's pretend that happens. But somebody else, the other train of thought could be, well, he did what he came there to do, so now he can leave because he's whatever. His mission is accomplished, and he can go to L.A. I don't know, man. I still don't think he can leave.
So here's what he said tonight. Not answering the question necessarily, but he said he wanted to come to a team that had the same mindset as he did, and the Raptors had that. And so I think it's a nice way of saying that I'm in a place where I think I can succeed, which is like, that's a silly thing to ask. He just won the finals, so it's like, obviously this is where he can succeed. Yeah. But I guess now that he's won the finals in two different places, won a finals MVP in two different places, which is mind-blowing, then I guess he's not necessarily, I guess at this point it's really about having the place and the lifestyle, which is probably 95% basketball, but also is a little bit kind of just like where he is and what he does with his time and all that kind of stuff. But like, yeah, I guess he probably isn't necessarily locked into needing to be somewhere where he's guaranteed to compete for a title. I think he probably wants to be somewhere where he's the happiest, and I can't imagine him being happier than the situation he's in right now, but maybe the Clippers can convince him still that'll be there.
Yeah, I would think he'd be silly to leave also, because look at what he's got. I mean, Lowry's not getting any younger, but Siakam is a superstar in the making, in my opinion. He's going to be really good.
And Fred will keep getting better.
And Fred VanVleet is, well, I mean, he's probably getting there, but he's so tough. He's not a starter, I don't think, but it's like
be as good as Lowry at some point. It's possible.
Yeah, okay, right. And he's probably not that much smaller than Lowry, so yeah, they could kind of flip him out into that role. And by the way, I want to make it clear, I love Fred VanVleet. I've championed him since he got in the league. So, and I think I loved him when he was in college. So
I said he was my favorite player on this Raptors team last week, right?
Yeah. So
actually, in a quick,
say it again.
I was going to say MVP voting just came out. Everybody voted for Kawhi Leonard except for Hubie Brown. And guess who Hubie Brown voted for?
He did for VanVleet, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure he just did that because he knew he wasn't going to get it, but he wanted to get some recognition. That's really nice of Hubie. I wonder if VanVleet has anything in his contract that says if he gets a vote for Finals MVP, he gets some money.
Hard to imagine, but he's going to get himself a big contract very soon.
That would be like George Lucas when he got the rights to the action figures of Star Wars, and everyone's like, okay, you can have them. And then, $10
billion later.
Oh, we have anything in the comments here we can go through here. Dreamline Inc. was Lowry in that first quarter was insane, and he was. I mean, that was crazy. And by the way, really key for them to get off to a good start, even though the Warriors matched them just about shot for shot. And yet the Raptors needed that. Otherwise, it could have been a real downer for them the rest of that game. What else do we see here? Jose Reyes, what do you think of the take of that Siakam is Draymond 2.0? I think Siakam's already going to be light years ahead of him shooting-wise as we progress. I think he's on that progression where I think we got what we got with Draymond. He bends his knees too much. He has really poor energy transfer. The times he makes them is when he has to rush, because then all of a sudden he gets better rhythm. So I think Siakam could be as good. Now, Siakam, I don't know if he's got the ability to do the defensive things that Draymond does, right? We haven't really seen, I don't know. Have you seen any evidence that he could fill that kind of role?
I think he could. I mean, we did like a segment where we compared him to Draymond in Draymond's like third year, I feel like, back in probably April. Okay. And I can't remember exactly when, but we had a long discussion about why Siakam seems like he could be the next great defender. I'm really high on him to turn into that kind of guy, because I just look at the lightness of which he moves, like the way that he moves on his feet is so light for someone with that kind of length.
Yeah,
it's kind of insane. I think he'll be a little bit different than Draymond, but I think he overall can have a comparable impact. Draymond's intellect is at like a Bill Russell, borderline Bill Russell level. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get to watch Bill Russell at this kind of level. Obviously, I've watched plenty of Bill Russell, but just not at a level I get to with Draymond. So I don't know if it really is at that level, but Dre just reads everything so early. And it's like Dre just can kind of like turn his hips in the same position, knowing the way the play is going to go. And he somehow has already snuffed it out just by doing that. It's like, it's just like this like subtle, brilliant mastery. Right. Siakam is kind of like the other end of the spectrum where he's able to cover the entire floor. And I remember there's this one play we talked about where he like defended the post, closed out to the kick out, was able to funnel the guy all the way in and then block the shot. And like I think it was in the first round maybe. And just the complexity, the multitude of things that he did in this one position over like a 5-second span was just so, there's just nobody else that could do that. Like prime LeBron could do that. Giannis is probably capable of doing that. Those are like the only guys I think that just have the physical tools to do it. He has the work ethic to do it. He does seem like he's a really smart player and is probably going to continue to grow. I mean, he's still super early in his career, so he's got a lot of time till he really gets to that level. But I do think he's going to be the best defender in the NBA probably, or at least like right up there.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, okay. Interesting. I don't know if I can quite see that yet, but he's still so young. I think Scottie Pippen is where his trajectory can be, and maybe ultimately shoot more and better threes on that end too. I mean, again, we have to find out if he's going to facilitate like Scottie could do, but I just think the sky's the limit for that guy. He started playing the game so late, and he's already caught up so far. We have some other super chats. Again, thank you guys so much. It's been so generous this whole time we've been doing these. Ignite the Chaotix from Canada. All right. Both teams came out strong, and the Raptors came out strong. Okay. Hope Klay will get better soon. We the North, absolutely on all that stuff. Jedi Jazza, a friend of the breakdown. Lowry and Fred VanVleet played huge clap, clap, clap. Absolutely they did. We talked a little bit about both of those guys. The Shiny Haxorus, again, thank you for the best friend of the breakdown. Now, all credit to the Raps, 5-game series with Dubs healthy. Well, then why is it 6 games then? Because the Dubs were not healthy. I don't know.
I think they're probably saying that Dubs would win in 5 if they were healthy.
Oh, 5-game series with Dubs healthy. Interesting. Okay, I don't think so. I mean, the Warriors still would have had a really hard time with these guys. So, right, even with Kevin Durant,
with the health, if none of these guys were injured, I think the Warriors would have won the series. But
okay,
it would have.
Like
I
6,
definitely think
maybe.
It would have gone 6 or 7. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Toronto played like perfect basketball essentially in the series.
Right. NBW Doughboy, another super chat. Thank you.
Favorite of mine.
Yes, the friend of the breakdown. Do you think that these Raps would have beat the 17 Dubs? Oh my goodness gracious! Now we got to go back 2 years, right? It was 17. It was the first Kevin Durant team, right?
Yeah. I guess that team was definitely playing better, so probably not. No, yeah. I mean, if I don't think
Livingston was better.
Yeah, the Warriors would not. Iguodala could still do anything scoring wise, which is so ironic. Because how many points did he have? 20 tonight. He had 5 tonight. Okay, I don't. For some reason,
Iguodala had 22.
In 22. Oh, okay. I'm looking at the wrong box score. What the hell?
You are.
Yeah, I thought he had 20 tonight. Okay, so I don't know how Andre Iguodala had 22 points tonight because every time he gets the ball with space, he looks to pass the ball to someone behind him. It's remarkable. It's just that he hit what did he get, like 2 or 3? He went 3 for 6 tonight, I think, from deep, right? So he went for 3 for 6. He got to the rack a couple times. It's a miracle that he was able to score that many points because I haven't seen a player that gets that many minutes be so reticent to try to score the ball, especially someone who just used to be such a good scorer. Like 2 years ago, he was a good scorer. 4 years ago, he was basically a 20-point scorer. I don't understand how this has happened with him, but he's such a great passer. He's such a smart player that he still makes it work somehow. It's incredible to watch.
And you want to say age because it is, but like when he's jumping on those alley-oops, he looks like a 28-year-old. It's crazy.
It's not age. It's got to be some sort of weird confidence thing.
Yeah, probably.
And I think a part of it, honestly, is that he's an extremely selfless player. And I think he's like, you know what? I'm surrounded by all the greatest scorers of all time. I need to make sure I just get the ball in their hands and not screw it up, and I take the 3 when I need to take the 3. And hey,
right.
to his credit, he takes some like contested threes at the end of the shot clock, like he did in the fourth quarter, and he hits them.
Oh, I know. He had one that was ridiculous. Like he was like, "Please, somebody else shoot this," and he had to throw it up at the shot clock, and it went in. And he had another one like that off of a few dribbles in the mid range from about 16, 17. That was also huge. So it comes in, and it's pretty crazy. Anyhow, let me see here. We got another what's it called? Super chat. Hottest tracks. Thank you so much. To be honest, I think they should have put DeMarcus at power forward. I don't know, because then what you have is you get it's dangerous to have him there because he has to guard, I guess, Kawhi the way that some of those lineups are coming out there, right? I just think that DeMarcus had a hard time, finding a way to play defense and be effective. A, because of his body clearly isn't 100%, and B, he's just never been good at that anyway, I guess.
He was kind of like a better Andrew Bogut essentially in this series, which is fine.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a couple mediocre games, but I think overall he gave them exactly what they were hoping that he would give them, considering the circumstances. Like he was burly and he was physical. And hey, I don't know if you saw me tweet it out, but we talked last show about how we haven't seen him once attack from the elbow and get to the rim, which is like his whole bread and butter. And it finally happened like at the end of the game tonight. That was really exciting. So yeah, I was really happy for him. Hopefully next year he'll be able to do that more frequently and get back to his core game. Where?
Yeah. Not there. Not in Oakland.
Well, he didn't do enough this year to sorry, my I have these ESPN box scores open where like every 20 minutes they decide to start playing
oh yeah, you got to wait. Okay, pro tip for everybody out there: you got to mute the site on your Chrome if that's what you're using. That's a big mute ESPN. Trust me.
The ESPN's the worst, but there's an extension that makes all the advanced box stats show up. And for some reason, NBA Stats no longer has their box scores working properly during the playoffs. Like the play-by-play doesn't work right after the game's over. It's driving me insane.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, whatever. Point is, I can't remember what I was saying. It probably wasn't a good point anyway. But I don't. Yeah, Boogie did not do enough this year to make a team feel comfortable giving him a multi-year deal or give him 15 to 20 million. So it's very possible he just re-ups for another year on the mid-level, but it kind of depends. Like, would he rather make 10 million somewhere else or 5 million playing with them? I would rather be healthy and make 5 million playing with this Warriors team and make another run at the title.
Interesting. Yeah, I would think so. And I guess the Warriors would probably be willing to have him back because he's as good as they're going to get at that position. So that's if they get him on a good deal. They call me Ray 4 had an interesting question. Why did Kerr have Cook out there instead of McKinney? Well, I mean, I think he obviously trusts Cook a lot more than he does McKinney. And that's just sort of
shooting.
And shooting. Although McKinney can hit a shot every now and then, but yeah, you want to have Cook out there. He's proven that he feels more comfortable out there. But you're right. McKinney's defense was actually pretty good, and he's got good size. So I think that for what they needed, that Cook was it. Let's see here. What should Masai Ujiri leave? JD Guy 00.
So that was another update I wanted to give. So. First was the first report that the Wizards, the reason why they haven't hired a GM this whole time is they were waiting to try to blow Masai Ujiri away, which obviously I love as an idea. And Woj tweets right after the game ends. Like, I think like the first tweet I saw after the game was over that the Wizards are going to offer Masai $10 million a year, which would make him by far the highest paid sole GM in the NBA. I think Pop might be getting close to that money, but he, president with RC Buford running the front office. So this would be pretty unprecedented. Actually, Phil Jackson, I guess, was getting that, but that didn't even make sense. This at least makes sense.
Right.
And I think Masai has demonstrated that he's clearly worth it. He's one of the best executives in the NBA. So that'll be really, really fascinating. But, I would assume that Toronto would pony up and be willing to match whatever Washington's trying to offer. But, maybe Masai.
Oh boy, we lost Jared again. Anyway, let's. I really wanted to hear what he's going to say on that one too. So he'll come back, I'm sure, in a second. Let's try. Let me try that again. Let's see if I do that. Reconnect to previous session. Okay. Here he comes. Is he back? Are you there? All right. Wow, That was weird, but here you are. Okay, so finish that sentence about Masai and whether or not Toronto's going to.
I do not think Toronto will let him go. I think Toronto will pony up. I mean, hey, they must have made enough money to cover his entire contract just with this finals run,
right?
And he truly has. I think he gets credit for building this championship team more than most executives get over the years that we've seen for building these teams. I mean, he just meticulously put them together, had the trust in the core guys that they had, and then made that trade and took a huge swing on Kawhi. And now because he won, the Kawhi can walk away and they still feel great about that trade. They got what they wanted out of it at the very least, even if he doesn't stay. Yeah. So he's been the perfect GM. He really has been.
Yeah, and they may take the roll of dice thinking that whoever's his assistant there has learned the ropes well enough and he could take over. I don't know. We have a couple more super chats. Again, thank you guys so much for all the super chats and how nice that is. Alexander Varga, KD or I'm sorry, I missed one. NBW Doughboy, a multiple super chatter. Also, how would these Raps fare against the '96 Bulls? Let's get through the other ones real quick and we can track that. Alexander Varga, KD or Claw all time, your opinion then stats. And then again, Chasless Abimana says, if Kawhi stays, Raps make it to the finals again. All right, so those are all three are fantastic questions. Let's do the one about KD versus the Kawhi. I've been saying the last week or so that Kawhi is the best player in the NBA, primarily because he's getting away with all these damn walks. He really has gotten to the superstar status where they don't call traveling on him anymore, and that has to indicate to me that he's way up there, one or two. I guess KD is better all around.
He is,
but maybe not anymore.
Well, definitely not right now.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I guess because of KD's injury and his age, I think that he's never going to get to this pinnacle that he was at before he got hurt just, this year. And so I think Kawhi is now reaching that level. And so Kawhi will be the better player here on out. But Kawhi's 5 years younger than him. So, it's not an even comparison. But KD at his top is better than Kawhi. KD is KD has peaked as a top 10 player of all time. Kawhi is like one tier down from that, but Kawhi can keep growing from here and hit that level. He's just entering his prime right now.
Wait, is Kawhi really just like 26? Is that what you just told me?
Is he? I think he's 27, right?
Okay. Either way, it's still pretty young. All right, so now, so we did talk about that for a second. If Kawhi stays, the Raps make the finals again. Actually, we didn't really talk about it in that context, but
he's 27.
I mean, listen, the Raptors are going to have their hands full again. I mean, I don't know what Boston is going to do or not, but certainly Milwaukee is going to be. I would imagine they're going to figure out how to improve. The Sixers I imagine they're going to figure out how to improve. Those are going to be two tough series for them to get back to the finals. But if Kawhi stays, then you have to favor them, I think, right?
Well, the Sixers are in a weird position because a lot of people don't expect them to keep both Tobias and Jimmy Butler. So, which is a massive shot in the foot. I feel I would miss the assets that they gave up for Tobias more than the ones that they gave up for Jimmy. So, Philly's in a weird position where they actually might not get better. They might get better in the idea that they'll have Joel get a year better. Ben Simmons could take another leap forward, which, I mean, frankly, if he just makes even just like modicum of progress on his jump shot, he would take a massive leap forward. Mm-hmm. So but I think that they won't be as strong across the board as they were. And we got to remember, if Kawhi's shot did not bounce in at the end of Game 7 there against Philly, all of history could be completely changed. I mean, Toronto could have gone on to win in that overtime, and then it's still the same story. But obviously, if Philly won that game, then everything's completely different. And then, I guess Milwaukee will get better. I mean, Giannis is probably going to win MVP, and he still has a lot of weaknesses in his game he needs to get better at, and he's still really young. He's still like another contract away from his prime, basically. So it's insane how much better he can become. And then, Boston they might kind of just take a step back because Kyrie, there's so much momentum of Kyrie going to Brooklyn right now that I mean, Boston could make the AD trade and they would probably be better than they were last year, which, hey, maybe that's enough for them to somehow squeak by all these teams and become, get into the finals. But the East should be super competitive again. Not to mention if Kyrie does go to the Nets are already pretty solid. The Nets will probably take a step towards that top tier as well.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy if this is all sort of falls into place. The East becomes better than the West all of a sudden, and it's in a hurry, And if the Warriors can't keep things going, then the things sort of fall apart very quickly. It's crazy. Let's just quickly address the Raps against the '96 Bulls. Having been to every '96 Bulls game in Chicago Stadium, or actually it was United Center at that point, I would think that the Bulls really match up well against this team and would beat them. I don't think. I think they have enough of the defenders to be able to handle what the Raptors. So I would definitely go with the Bulls.
Yeah, I think that Bulls team actually played a much more similar style to this Toronto team than to the Warriors. I think there's a lot of similarities there. Yeah. I think that MJ probably would have run a ton of pick and roll if he had played a generation later as well. Right. He probably would. Hell, MJ probably would have been the greatest pick and roll playmaker of all time if he had played in this generation, and he probably would have shot threes and would have scored 45,000 points instead of 31,000 points. So
yeah, he would have probably been like a better version of like Lillard. Well, I don't know. He wouldn't have shot. I don't know,
I kind of think he would just be a better version of Kawhi. I think him and Kawhi, there's a lot of similarities. I mean, their I guess aesthetic styles a little bit different, but as far as their shot profile, as their capability, the way that they use their wingspan and their ability to palm the ball to finish in certain ways, and their foot control, their balance to finish. So I feel like he would do what Kawhi is doing, but just he would be more explosive. He would be kind of more quick twitch aggressive. It would be at a different level.
Michael just had better vision, had a better ability to make passes out of that stuff, which I think we're still waiting for Kawhi to develop, and I think he can.
And that's the next stage. KD, to his credit, he's definitely achieved a lot.
Oh yeah, when Westbrook went down and KD won the MVP that year in OKC, he was like a point guard in my mind. He was facilitating as well as he was scoring, so he's proven that. And I think Michael had that same ability when he wanted to do it like that. And I just think that Kawhi just needs to get a little bit out of the box on some of the passes. He can make the very very normal easy pass, which is fine. He'll get his 4.5 assists a game, but he has to get to like 6 before we kind of start to see him opening up that whole part of him. Another couple of super chats again. Thanks so much. Don't get Merc wants to say, do I talk about the no timeout coach? I think what he means is there was a moment there where the Raptors didn't call timeout coming back down. I'm forgetting exactly the situation, but I remember thinking Nick Nurse is not going to call timeout for the life of him after the that last game and how we ripped him so badly. It turned out okay. Do you remember what I'm talking about, Jared? What possession that was?
I can't remember the exact possession, but I remember there being a weird timeout situation.
Right. Well, he didn't call a timeout. He let him go. Yeah. And I think what might have even happened was they missed the shot, but they get the offensive rebound, and then it got kicked out, and they hit like a 3, or maybe that was, you know what? That might have been the Lowry crazy fadeaway in Steph's face. That was like from about 15 feet going across the lane. It might have been that one, which is like, again, the other kid that killed the Warriors were second chance points. They just couldn't get some of those key rebounds they needed, and that would have really changed the game too. And then the Raptors just completely took advantage. Devon Hills says, love the channel. I know they had injuries, but does this game series hurt Curry's playoff legacy and image of not showing up in big moments? There's a little twinge of that. I could see how people might want to argue to some degree that he has, struggled a little bit in some of these playoff games, but he's also come up big as well. By the end of this game, though, I don't know what you're expecting to do. They're doing box and one. They're just hanging on him. It was really tough for a guy in his position to try and create off of that, I would think.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think he had a very good series. He had the one all-timer with the 45 point, 8 and 8 or 7 and 8, whatever. Last couple of games, he's really gone off. And I mean, don't forget, he's also playing off of Klay. And Klay was amazing in this game. And Klay was the one that really dominated in this game before he went down. And then once he went down, it was a lot easier for them to key in on Steph. And they were switching off ball and then doubling on him a little bit. I mean, they were really being physical with him. Now, I think that it's just going to be kind of natural to his position, but as a small guy who plays off ball, a lot of the time he's going to struggle more as he goes deeper into the playoffs because defenses are going to be allowed to get more physical with him off the ball, and that's a reality situation. And it is one of the vulnerabilities that he has in his, in the goatness conversation, I guess you would have when you compare it to the big physical wings. This is why historically teams have been built around big physical wings that for title contention, because usually those are the guys that can thrive off of the physicality as you go deeper and deeper into the playoffs. And that proved true again this time around, as Kawhi is the new prototype for that position, and his strength and his ability to finish through contact is what really dominated the series in the fourth quarter of games.
Absolutely. There's a really good question. I can't find who it was now. This damn scrolling thing went by, but it basically was, who deserves the credit for the title? Is it Nick Nurse or is it Kawhi Leonard?
It's not an either or thing. It's both.
Yeah. I mean, it is, because we're also trying to compare like Nick Nurse versus Dwayne Casey. And it's a little bit unfair because Nick Nurse gets Kawhi Leonard, Danny Green. They get rid of a toxic duo that simply wasn't going to win in the playoffs anyway. And that, it's hard to know how that kind of all that is affected. But, certainly they could turn to Kawhi, let him go. But yeah, aside from some clock management issues that we saw scattered throughout a little bit, Nick Nurse's everything he did turned to gold. Everybody he put in would just contribute the way he needed to. And so you got to give him as much props as anybody else, because he really managed these games really well. And you know what? I'm sure he'll kind of like, with now that he's got some more experience in that situation, we probably won't see some of those things that you would all scratch our head and say like, why did you call 2 timeouts in a row in Game 5 or those kind of things.
Yeah, for me the biggest thing is the system that he created, and we've been credited. Steve Kerr got so much credit for building this incredibly revolutionary and beautiful system, and there's a lot of talk about like whether Steve Kerr was actually a good coach and did a good job managing games, or was it just that he was a great people person and he designed this great system. And I think he's great across the board, frankly. Yeah. I think those were all misnomer conversations. But Nurse has achieved the same, not quite at that same level, but he achieved generally the same thing here, where he figured out a system that worked, a fairly simple system, where he did I had seen a couple people whose opinions I really respect kind of question whether or not they were utilizing Kawhi properly, and saying how like the offense gets better overall when Kawhi isn't out there. And those are the same things that people say about KD. I think it's as simple as that. When you have a great dominant isolation scorer, the offense might not as a whole look as pretty as it usually does, but that's because you have something you can go to that isn't necessarily pretty, but works really well. And the teams that win are the ones that are able to still execute the system well in between those isolation stints. And Nurse, I think, really over the course of the finals and in the conference finals as well, really managed to maintain that energy and balance. He'd used the right combinations out there. He had a good feel of when to mix up double big versus going small, how to use Siakam properly. And they never really had any real down moments in their offense. I mean, there were a couple huge runs that the Warriors made in the series, but it was pretty much just like consistently good offense from Toronto the entire series.
And even when they do a little bit of a scoring drought, usually the shots they get were pretty good, somewhere near the lane, like just barely miss. They can almost get a tip and they don't get that to go in. So yeah, what he built there is not I don't know if it's the equivalent of what Kerr did to revamp the offense when he got into to Golden State, but certainly he certainly unlocked some things for them as well. And by the way, there's an interesting parallel. Siakam sort of getting the opportunity to do that. Maybe he doesn't do that if OG is healthy to start the season, and it's a little bit like Draymond Green getting the opportunity when David Lee went down, if we can remember that 100 years ago. So there's an interesting parallel there. And again, that's why we probably could think of Siakam and Draymond in some weird parallel thing. But we already talked about that earlier and how they don't, they're on different paths. But listen, here's another interesting. We have a couple questions maybe as we wrap this up. Cactus Stew just wants to know if we think that Klay hurt his ACL. And I think there's no question he hurt his ACL. It's just a question of how severe it is. And it's not
could
good.
Have been MCL. But
I was talking with another doctor, and he's like, it could be, but it looked like I think he felt it was ACL more than anything else. But without question, it's a serious injury, and the only saving grace maybe is that in today's medicine, those guys come back without too many ill effects. Unlike the Achilles, which is going to take a year and then maybe another year after that to see, and even then, I don't know, it might not be not like an ACL. Benjamin Bierce asked an interesting question: did the Memphis Grizzlies make a home run hire to their new head coach Taylor Jenkins Do you know him at all? Because I don't.
I have minimal experience with him, so not enough to form a good opinion on the show.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it was a eyebrow raising. I hadn't even known he was in the mix necessarily for that. So we'll find out. But they're certainly in the rebuild mode. So they're all gonna start from where they are and go up from there. Let's see here. Anything else that we grab? Who do you got winning Coach of the Year? Another one for Benjamin Pierce. Another good question. I mean, I would give it to Nick Nurse now if they voted the way they're supposed to, which is after the season is completely over, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And he might get it anyway, though, right? Or no, is it going to be Budenholzer?
No, it'll be Bud. Bud got it. I've been told that Bud got it.
Okay. So. Yeah, and that's fine. He deserved it too. They had a fantastic regular season, so without question.
I'm sorry. I should clarify. When I say I've been told, I mean a bunch of people have told me they've heard that from enough people that there are enough votes for Bud that it's pretty obvious he has it. But I don't have inside knowledge from the NBA's front office that he did actually win it. But that's the expectation.
All right. Well, there's your answer there. Anything else maybe in the Periscope here?
This is Jared Weiss, NBA, commenting here. I hope everybody can see the image of Pascal Siakam draped in the Cameroon flag, holding a bottle of champagne with goggles on. I just retweeted it. Jared Weiss, NBA, go follow. It's one of the great images in NBA history.
All right, I'm gonna check that out.
It's like J.R. Smith level of swag. It's pretty amazing.
Well, listen, Jared, it's a little sad because I don't know when we're gonna do this again. I guess we'll have to try and do it.
Yeah, we just keep going for another hour right now. I mean, there's so much more. We haven't even talked about the future of the Warriors or any of that fun stuff. We'll have to come back and do another one.
All right, yeah, because we're getting it's getting late. It's getting long in the tooth. Let's see, JV, thank you so much for that super chat. Blue Diamond Gem says, I seem a little salty the Raptors won, which you know what? This is making me laugh hysterically because if you look at the comments in today's video when we went over the refs calls, everyone was screaming at me that I'm like completely biased against the Warriors, and now I'm salty the Raptors won. I think the only reason why I'm a little bit like, first of all, the reason why I'm feeling this way is it's kind of sad when the season's over. I never want to see that. If I had a game 7, it's better for business, I guess, in theory. So I wouldn't want to end it there either. So that might be the only reason why you sense that, because I'm really excited that the Raptors won. I think it's just an amazing story for them to have gone through what they did and just and beat the Warriors. I mean, whatever version of the Warriors this was. So no, I'm not salty at all. I am salty, I guess, that the season's over, but it's not over because there is free agency. There's the NBA draft. Actually, let's go the right order. NBA draft, free agency, summer league, retro breakdowns of old games. Jared, you and I could still record our podcast this way every once a week, and we can still do it.
If I have to, okay.
All right, fine. Well, listen, we can do it maybe a better hour of the day. People are awake.
True. That's true.
Yes,
I am looking forward to not trying to fall asleep during the tail end of these because it's almost 1 a.m. for me here. It's been long. Well, I mean, a couple things to say. First off, we all know that if there's anyone that is the biggest Toronto Raptors hater in the world, it's definitely Nick. Well known established fact. People have been calling you an anti-Raptors Sixers. They were calling you a Sixers homer and anti-Raptors back during that series.
They were.
Yeah, I remember that was a whole thing with the commenters. Even as we were like breaking down why Kawhi Leonard was so historically remarkable, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and again,
I was comparing him to Kobe in his prime, and people were saying that was a diss, and I'm like.
And I'm saying
Kobe Bryant was.
I'm saying he's the best player in the NBA right now. So it's like, I don't know, but we got a couple more super chats flying in here. I'm like, God, thank you guys all. Jordan the fourth. Nurse's offense is nothing special. Ooh, his players' great defense along with transition points mask his lack of offense. Well, listen, man, that orchestration they were doing in the pick and roll was a thing of beauty. I don't think we can dismiss that, right, Jared?
Well, so he's like this. That's kind of half of what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that he developed he's coordinated a very simple but effective offense. His offense is not like what Steve Kerr did, which was
okay.
A beauty. They're running a lot of high pick and roll. They're doing a good job of spacing with the right guys in the right positions to try to get Draymond out of position. They did a really good job of just placing guys using the right personnel so that they could run a high pick and roll scheme or let Kawhi go into isolation, or run high-low so that they could use the dunker spot to their advantage. And that was the huge thing that they were doing, was they were getting a lot of high-low action where they would pull two Warriors defenders up high so that there was only one Warrior defender to deal with two bodies down towards the bottom of the paint. And they were kind of just getting guys into rotation and getting a lot of easy finishes at the rim. And that's where Siakam and Ibaka really thrived in the series.
Yeah. Okay.
And so
yeah.
It was just it was smart, good offense. Like they never had incredible offense. They just played very good offense all the way through, very consistently, no drop-offs. That's what made it great.
And they threw a Spain pick and roll in there every once in a while. They used it a lot more, I think, in the last series. And but the Warriors are a little bit better at switching that and covering it, so they didn't do that. But they also did some nice things with a little bit of motion into the pick and roll, so it made the defense be a little bit more sieve-like, or it has more openings for them to attack. So that was good. We got I got a lot more super chats. All of a sudden, thank you guys. Varun Rizbud, another friend of the breakdown, I believe. How did Klay How did he go from walking to crutches? And listen, adrenaline is a powerful thing, man. Like when you're hopped up, you can do some crazy stuff, and then all of a sudden, when it dies down, you're in a lot of pain and you're seriously injured. Edgar, wow, very generous of you. Thank you. The Warriors have gotten luck with other teams having injuries. Kyrie, Love, Chris Paul, Kawhi. Yeah, right. That's another one of those karmic things, perhaps, where they had kind of dodged the bullet for a long time mostly with injuries from their main guys. And, it's just going to happen. It just happens. It's a lot of games over a lot of time. It's too bad that it happened to Klay the way it did, because he was like a dunk, and the guy, had to go for I think was it Lowry who went for the block?
It was Danny Green.
Danny Green.
Like the best like transition blocker by a wing in the game. And I had no issue with that block. And I don't think anybody did. Obviously Twitter did, because Twitter
really? Okay.
full of idiots, but whatever.
Anyway, Eric Quinn, thank you for your super chat. I really appreciate that. Varun Rusbud, again, if Klay was playing, the Warriors would have won this. And I think we both agreed earlier that would probably be true, right?
If Warriors had Durant, they would have won this.
Oh, okay. No, okay. For Game 6, if Klay continued to play, I think they win Game 6.
I think so. Probably, yeah.
Okay. And then Le Championnat. It's time to trade Steph after next season. His max contract is going to bring them down. He is not a clutch player. Well, I think he's a clutch player. But that is not a bad point, that at some point your superstars lose enough value where, like, if you don't trade him, you get stuck with them, and then you're going to get saddled with it's harder to rebuild after that. We saw that remember the Celtics with McHale and Bird did that. They but you can't trade him. You cannot trade Steph Curry. It just can't happen. I mean, maybe if he requested it in some weird way, to go back to North Carolina or whatever, but you can't trade Steph Curry, right? You couldn't trade Michael Jordan. It just doesn't happen.
They're not going to do that. He's a historic icon. I don't think Myers is the kind of guy that could do it. Hey, if Danny Ainge was the GM, he would do it, but he's not. Right. I don't think Bob would do it. Steph is just so valuable to that. He is so unbelievably marketable in a way that's well beyond Paul Pierce or Kevin Garnett, as much as they're beloved in that city. And he's at a level that like Dirk was in Dallas, where he is a godlike figure in the Bay Area. He defines what that team means. Now, who knows? Maybe if he gets hurt and he starts struggling in his mid-30s, because he's still got about like 2 or 3 years until that happens, so he gets to that age. Mm-hmm. Maybe that changes things. And for the last 2 years, they want to move on from him. But I mean, he's going to be making $50 million. So even if they continue with cap inflation, I think he'd be making still way too much for a team to trade him. Right. Give up good prospects that would add up to that incredible amount of money. I guess they're going to probably have to increase the rookie scale in the next CBA to try to compensate for how high these max salaries are going with the Supermax. But I just don't see that happening.
Right. Well, listen, I think we made some great points tonight. Another great show and a great audience questions as well, and also the super chats. Thank you so much. So Jared, I mean, I think this is going to be it for tonight.
So okay, one more question, I guess.
Okay.
To finish off the season will be the Warriors. I guess let's just say the Warriors run it back with this team, which I guess it doesn't matter if KD resigns or not, because he's not going to play next year most likely.
Okay.
And let's say they even manage to keep Boogie, and Boogie's healthy. Do you think the Warriors and let's say the Raptors stay the same, who is the favorite to win the NBA title next year? Is it whoever trades for AD? Is it one of these two teams?
All right. And are we assuming that Kawhi is going to stay in Toronto?
Assuming that, assuming the Raptors run it back as well.
Right. Well, I mean, here's the thing we've seen, like when the Bulls first won their championship, I remember like in '91, and they got the glow, and they went on, they went to 2 more. They really like believed they had the experience. So a lot of times what we'll see is that second year they win like 65 games and they destroy everybody, and they go 16-3 in the playoffs. So I could see the Raptors like somehow running it all back and being better and all those things. So they could get back there. Okay, that's one. The Warriors are going to have, again, what's happening in the West? Are the Rockets going to break this thing up? Are they going to be any better or not? I mean, they didn't really pose as much of a threat this year.
Well, they're trying to retool right now to make another run at it. That's what they've definitely been trying to pull off.
Right. And so I don't know if they can pull that off. And if it works, we have, Portland, and you have Utah and Denver. Denver might be the one that seems to be the most ascendant. So, it's going to be really hard for the Warriors. I think without question, it's going to be a struggle. Again, a 6th straight finals is completely improbable, probably unlikely. So I would say that no, it's not as likely for them that they're going to make it back. But I think the Raptors, I would give them a good, legitimate shot at 70% chance getting back.
So this is funny. So literally right as I was asking you this question, the odds popped up for next year's champion on my Twitter feed. Number 1 at plus 190, and then number 2 after them is plus 450 for Milwaukee, which is like a pretty big gap. Number 3 is plus 1,000 is Toronto. So number 1 is Golden State. So Golden State's a pretty heavy favorite. Houston is right behind Toronto. Houston's right behind Toronto. Then the Knicks are right behind Houston. And then Boston, Clippers, Sixers are right behind the Knicks. Okay. And then the Lakers right behind them. And then Brooklyn, Denver is like a bit of cushion. And then it really drops off from there. Yeah.
And by the way, I mean, those are nice, but like, we got to find out what happens to free agency and the draft before you can even look at that stuff, I think. Right? Things are going to radically change. Sure. We got, by the way, another bunch of super chats just flew in here. So Varun Rispot again says, thanks for the live session. See you on draft night. So Jared, we should probably do this on draft night live.
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
It's a week from today, right?
Is it really? Oh my God. All right. Yeah. Well, we'll be back for the draft.
All right. And then it'll be earlier. And I got to actually start studying everybody because I don't even know half the people on the draft yet. Christian Nowak, what's KD, Klay's, and DMC's future? Well, we know that KD won't play next year. Klay will be out. The ACL is what, 4 or 5 months these days?
I would expect Klay will be ready for the regular season, depending on the severity of the injury.
Yeah,
and we don't know if it's a severe knee sprain that could have him out for 2 months, or it could be a partial tear or a full tear that could lead to 6 to 8 months. Who knows? But
yeah. And then DeMarcus Cousins is, I think, 50-50 coming back and signing like a MLE or something with the Warriors, I guess. But at most, it's 50% chance, I would say, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
I want to give a shout out to Worldwide Bob, who has maybe the greatest tweet of all time. It's Patrick McCaw has never not won an NBA championship.
Yeah. I'm sure that's going to get a lot of favorites. By the way, Rob is a friend of the Breakdown. He's been on the show, and we've done stuff together. So,
and it has 16,000 favorites in 1 hour. So
props to him for shooting right past me on Twitter popularity when I thought I had it. But good, there's something to be said for following back. If you look at Rob's followers thing, that's what I think that's a good.
It's weird though. He doesn't follow me. He's liked a bunch of tweets of mine too, but he doesn't follow me for some reason.
So you're one of the,
he follows 320,000 people,
I know.
but he doesn't follow me. I must be on a list or something like that. I don't know.
Maybe I can. I'll put a call in for you. So we'll see.
I've met him before once. He was a very nice guy. And
he's great. Yeah,
he's absolutely insane and amazing at what he does. I'll give him credit.
Absolutely. I remember having lunch with him when he had like 50,000 followers and we, talking. So props to him. He's really, he's having a Periscope right now that's probably, killing our Periscope. But we're killing him on the YouTube side. So that's what all that matters.
There you go.
Anyway.
There is one real last question, and then we'll shut this thing down.
Squeeze it out.
This is the biggest question. Golden State, 5 years, 3 championships.
Yeah.
They were called the greatest team ever when they were at their true peak, like the last 2 years. In hindsight, do you think were they the greatest team ever? Do you see this as kind of the end? And did they not live up to their complete potential?
I think I see it as the end. And I don't know, 3 titles in 5 years. Is that what it is? 3 and 4? 3 and 5 now?
3 and 5.
I think that's, and then, this one's a little tough. If you're a Warriors fan, you probably want to put an asterisk on it. So I think that they are. I think at their height, at their powers, when they had all those guys going, that was the best team we've seen, bar none. Right?
All right, I'm okay with it. I mean, it's really because the Bulls. We think of the Bulls as only winning 6, but MJ was suspended or whatever it was for 2 years, and I mean, I would assume they probably would have won 8 straight if he hadn't gotten hurt. So
I think so.
Yeah, so it's so hard to say that this team is better. I like this team better than that team, and if you're playing under today's rules, I would assume that this team would be better than that Bulls team. And you can't really count the Celtics from back then. It was a different game, and it's just so far long ago. And the players nowadays are just physically at a different level than what they were.
Yeah, but you got to judge them in the moment that they played, and that was certainly when you had McHale and Bird and Parrish.
Ainge, I'm talking about the ones from the 60s, like Bill Russell's team.
Okay, in the same deal there. Yeah, I mean, they had all those Hall of Famers. So they deserve to be judged in their era, and those are also amazing teams. But yeah, I don't know. It just feels like even when Boogie was playing this year and you had the other guys, I know they didn't win the title, but there's one reason why. So, but we hadn't seen a collection of talent, at least top heavy like that ever. I know that the Sixers in the 70s had 4 All-Stars, but not like that. So
yeah.
I would, but did they live up to their potential? I think so. I think that they, to win a title was really hard. To win 2 in a row was really hard. I think they did about as well as they could. I mean, I don't think I'd knock them down for that.
Yeah, I think I probably agree. Although I still think the 2013 Spurs were the greatest team of all time. So that's just me.
Yeah, and they didn't win. Well, Justin Gaming Dude is giving away an iPhone XR, and I'll give him a shout out for doing a super chat for that one. So good, yeah, that's a smart move on his part. And it seems like it's kind of expensive, but maybe an iPhone XR is more than $1,500. I don't know.
I mean, if they're stolen, they're probably pretty cheap to give away, right? But
that's right. Yeah, but we're not sponsored by hot iPhones. This one, so. All right, Jared, I'll see you back here then next week for the draft. Let's do a live show then, and we'll break down some stuff. We'll have to figure out how we want to do that and react and whatever. But you gonna have time to study up on some draft choices?
That's right. Yeah, I'm trying to get my Dortz up and all that. I clearly am not ready for this. Whatever, I'll get ready. It'll be fun. We'll do an X&O breakdown of how everybody walks to the podium, how they put their hat on, all that good stuff.
Yeah, what the inside of their jacket lining looks like. Okay,
that's the game now. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for everybody who joined us tonight. Again, it's just the season is not over, so don't think anything is going away. I got so much to bring you guys on YouTube. It's not even funny. It'll probably be even bigger than it was now, and it usually is every year this time of year, right after the finals. So. And Jared, we'll see you up on The Athletic, writing some good stuff, I hope.
I hope it might be good. It'll probably be mediocre, but I think it'll be good.
All right. Well, you don't.
That's why I plugged to end the season.
Don't sell yourself short. Anyhow,
there's gonna be a lot of great stuff coming on The Athletic. So
all right, awesome,
including some Coach Nick videos too.
Yes, I got to do one for now. Now I got to do one. All right, so stay tuned for all of that, and thank you guys for being here. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Jared?
I'm in off-season mode.